Hi, welcome to Your Black World News. I'm your host, Roosevelt Mitchell III. Today I'm joined by Mrs. Yvette Carnell from BreakingBrown.com as we're discussing the prominent Black Lives Matter activist, DeRay Mckesson, running for mayor in the city of Baltimore. He rose to stardom, or his popularity, if you will, with the Black Lives Matter movement. And late last night, at the last minute, he put in his paperwork to run for the mayor in Baltimore. How's it going today, Yvette?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for your time. And I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts on a prominent Black Lives Matter activist jumping ship to become a politician?
Well, I think, I tried not to, for a very long time, I tried not to criticize the Black Lives Matter protests I wanted to kind of see, okay, like, where is this headed? We had, Bruce Dixon at Black Agenda Report and some other people were kind of like, no, this isn't going to a good place. And I think based on what happened, I think this kind of solidifies that, that we were all right to kind of have our suspicions about the people, or some of the people at the head of Black Lives Matter. Because the truth of the matter is, what's happening now is you're seeing him. He's the most. First of all, he's not. He kind of removed himself from Black Lives Matter and did his own stuff, right? But he's still the most recognizable face of that movement, and he is now being absorbed by the Democratic Party, by the body politic, and it's not even. I would feel differently, I think, if he ran for a small, like a city council seat or something like that, because that still leaves a lot of space for organizing. That still leaves a lot of space for getting out there, getting your hands dirty and doing that sort of thing. But to run for mayor, that shows me that this guy, at the age of 30, but he sees himself as a political player. He doesn't see himself as an organizer. He doesn't see himself as that. He sees himself as a player. Like that's what he wants to do. And what we really need is organizers out there who are going to make people do stuff in those positions, because once you're in those positions, you're tied to money, you're tied to all sorts of stuff. You got to get that charter school money, all of that. So it's just a different world.
Exactly. And if for all of you who does not know, President Barack Obama was an organizer, grassroots, and you see what the office of president and senate did to him. It curtails exactly what you can and cannot do, right? So as mayor, no, he cannot be as argumentative or combative as he was about police brutality and etc. when he holding that type of position. But he is entering the race as a Democrat, Yvette, in an already compact field. I mean, it's 14 other Democrats. So do you think that he even has a chance of winning as far as jumping in a race this late in an ever so crowded field of Democrats?
I wouldn't put my money on him, because even though that's where he's from and everything, like, he hasn't been there. He hasn't been there building those relationships, from what I hear. So that's not where I would put my money. But even if he loses, he makes a name for himself, and I'm sure that he's going to eventually win something. But I mean, I'm sure it rings in the heads of everybody who's already in that crowded field that, hey, we've been here, we've been working for this, we've announced this, we've been raising money, we've been doing everything and working diligently, and here you come, you just want to kind of swoop in, and be that guy. And so I'm sure he's not building any bridges, but I don't know if that's necessarily what he's trying to do anyway. He's trying to position himself in a very comfortable space within Baltimore politics, and eventually within national politics. That's kind of the end game here.
Well, and some would say that this is another way of the Democratic Party to get the black vote, right? They get someone in the Black Lives Matter, or someone who's well known, a Black Lives Matter activist or whatever, and run for some type of Democratic office. So now you don't have to state that I am back in the Democratic Party. Now you're running as a Democrat. So all of his 300,000 plus followers or whatever on Twitter or whatever, is that like a ploy from the Democratic Party in order to get some more black votes?
Well. Some of us said that, like, watching this, what's going to happen is that Black Lives Matter is going to be we're going to have all this energy behind Black Lives Matter, and eventually we're just all going to line up, and that energy is going to go into the voting booth to vote for Democrats, which is what we've been doing for a very long time, and it doesn't seem like we're making any headway. So the problem in terms of DeRay Mckesson becomes, well, where do we go from here? Like, if the people at the very head of this thing are just going to become Democrats and run for office, and then get on TV and probably tell us, the Democratic Party is working for this, and they're really trying to do this and become spokespeople, we're kind of back to where we are, because we've always had people who get on TV and tell us, incrementally the Democratic Party is trying to do great stuff, and and all of that stuff, and then Black people are still, disproportionately poor, and we're still plagued with all the same things that we've been plagued with. So how does DeRay Mckesson running for mayor of Baltimore change the lives of Black people? And I think that, poor people, especially poor Black people, and I think that's what organizers are supposed to be doing. So when you see it taking this direction, you kind of know, like, okay, this is where we're going to end up.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, you said we need more organizers in order to create change. So is organizing at the grassroots level exactly the only way that we can get change, or true change?
I don't see anything else, because the organizers in Chicago did a great job of trying to push back against the school closings and everything that's been happening there with probably one of the most corrupt mayors in the history of any city, Rahm Emanuel. So you see organizers really trying to do great stuff, but the problem is that first of all, we don't give a lot of attention to these organizers in terms of the Black communities, because there's not one Black community, a lot of Black communities, right? So we don't give a lot of attention. We're looking at DeRay Mckesson. We're not looking as hard at these other organizers on the ground who are really putting in work. And I don't see how it happens outside of that. Like, these politicians aren't going to do anything unless they're made to do anything. So I think in terms of who we pay attention to and who has to make this happen, it has to come from organizers. And some organizers are doing really good work. And I think what we can do, the only thing that we can do, is support those organizers however they need support, because those are the people who are going to push these people to do stuff in terms of what it's not going to be. This stuff never happens from the top down. It's not going to be politicians decide one day that, or DeRay Mckesson is going to get a job as mayor of Baltimore and decide, I'm a great guy, I used to be an organizer, I'm going to do great stuff for people in Baltimore. No, that's not how it happens. It happens when people on the ground make it so difficult, for him not to do something, that he has to do something, because all politicians are the same after a while. You know what I mean? They all have to be made to do stuff.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of President Barack Obama, because even he said that one time in office a few years back, that it starts at the grassroots. He was sort of signifying that you have to put pressure on the White House and on us in order to make us do stuff, right? In order to make us do stuff. So he even kind of signified that once, him coming from grassroots. But okay, where does the movement go from here then?
I don't know where it goes. I think the movement. I never called it a movement, because I don't think it's a movement. I don't ever think it qualified as a movement. But I think it gets absorbed by the Democratic Party for the most part. Now, I'm saying that's not to mean that you're not going to have some good people on the ground who are still going to be trying to do good stuff, who are identified with Black Lives Matter. That's not what I'm saying. But when you start to get the people in the leadership position start to get absorbed by the Democratic Party, and these are the people that the media is paying attention to, these are the people who are going on Colbert Report. These are the people who are going to show up on Fox and CNN. They're going to say, hey, Black Lives Matter is now an arm of the Democratic Party, and that's going to be that. So when you see people, it's kind of unfortunate to me when you see people like DeRay Mckesson, not just running for office, but running for office this big, this soon. If you still have work to do as an organizer, run for the city council or something. Do something on that lower level that still provides you that space to be an organizer, but you still have the leverage of being an elected official. And it does cost money to run for those offices, but it's not nearly the amount of money that you need to run to run with the big dogs, right? So you can still do your stuff, and if people kind of bark at you or whatever, you can still get people out to vote for you, because as an organizer, because that's what you do. So I just think this kind of signals to me where we're headed, and where we're headed is a space where Black Lives, where some of the leadership in Black Lives Matter is probably going to be absorbed by the Democratic Party, and this time 2 years from now, probably won't even be talking about Black Lives Matter.
Would you or anyone else feel any differently about it if he had ran as an independent?
I actually would have kind of liked that. I actually, because it feels like you're not, even though you're beholden to money, you're not beholden to any one party, right? So you never know which way I'm going to go. I'm just going to go in the direction that is best for my constituents, and that's just how it is. And I understand that it's difficult sometimes to raise money in that way, but that's because of how the system is set up. The system is set up to co-opt you, and you're going to play for Team A or Team B. That's why I'd rather you stay in this space of being an organizer and forcing people to do things as opposed to going there. Especially like, I can't say this enough, but you going from like organizer to wanting to be mayor of Baltimore, like, it just seems to me like, this was kind of set up for McKesson to kind of make a big name for himself. And I'm sure in making a big name for himself, he'll have some positive things to say about charter schools and some he'll throw out the same questions that he's been throwing out about whether or not we should, close post office or they should be privatized or something like that. I mean, these are the sorts of this is the sort of neoliberal politics that I feel that he has, that he's been sort of hiding behind, because he knows that he can't go too deep into it. So he kind of every now and again he just kind of licks his finger and puts it up there and see how people are feeling, and everybody claps back so hard that he's like, oh, I can't do that. But it kind of just gives me a glimpse into where you are as a political person, and to me that's worrisome. But it's just you wonder, like I said, whether 2 years from now, whether we'll be like Black Lives Matter, what? You know what I mean? Like whether this will even be a thing.
Right. Well, I think the election comes up late April, so time will tell. But I thank you so much for your time. I'd like to give you the last word, Yvette.
No, I just think people need to watch where this goes. And the thing that I not only watch where this goes, but I want you to watch where this goes and take a lesson from it, right? Because people always say, well, you're being too critical. That's not necessarily the case. Well, okay, just watch where it goes, and you tell me whether I had a point here later on or whether I didn't. I would like people to go back and like assess these things from now on. So let's just see. You see where he's going in terms of Black Lives Matter. Let's see where the other people in Black Lives Matter go and who finances them. And let's see at the end of the day whether this was a good direction so that we can come back to the drawing board.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. And if you have any comments or questions for me or Yvette, please leave them in the comment section below. And until next time, my friends, be blessed and be encouraged.